My name is Isla Harrington, and I'm 28 years old. If you asked me what I used to dream about as a little girl, I'd tell you I dreamed of colors. Bold reds, deep sapphires, and gold so bright it could light up the darkest corner of any room. I dreamed of filling blank canvases with stories, the way other people filled photo albums. But somewhere along the way, life painted over those dreams with dull, muted grays. Now, I stand barefoot in the Whitmore mansion's pristine kitchen, a steaming cup of coffee cradled between my palms, and wonder how I got here. The answer is simple. Adrian Whitmore. When Adrian came into my life, it felt like stepping into the warmth after years of cold rain. He was magnetic, charismatic in a way that pulled people toward him like moths to a flame. For a while, I believed I was the only one standing close enough to feel the heat. We met at an art auction in Chicago 3 years ago. I wasn't supposed to be there. My best friend, Claire, had begged me to help her set up her paintings, and I reluctantly agreed, thinking I'd sneak out before the crowd arrived. But then, I saw him. He wasn't the loudest man in the room, nor the most handsome, though he was handsome in a polished, understated way, but his presence was undeniable. When our eyes met across the champagne bar, he smiled like he already knew me. "You don't seem like the kind of woman who enjoys small talk," he said, when he finally approached me. "And you don't seem like the kind of man who waits for permission to join someone's table," I shot back, surprising even myself. He laughed, deep and unguarded. "Fair enough. May I sit?" One drink turned into 2, then 3. By the end of the night, I had given him my number, and 6 months later, he had given me a diamond ring. It was a whirlwind romance, the kind people write novels about. But novels always end at the wedding. They never tell you what happens after. The Whitmore estate is an architectural marvel. All steel and glass, perched on the edge of the Charles River like it was designed to catch the last light of every sunset. But beauty can be deceptive. Inside, it feels more like a museum than a home. Every surface gleams, every corner smells faintly of lavender polish, and every mistake echoes louder than in any ordinary house. Cecilia Whitmore, my mother-in-law, insists on perfection. She's the kind of woman who doesn't need to raise her voice to make you feel small. A single glance from her can strip away your confidence like old wallpaper. "This family has standards, Isla," she told me once, as I folded a stack of towels in the wrong order. "I trust you'll rise to them." "Yes, Mrs. Whitmore," I murmured, adjusting the towels. "Cecilia," she corrected with a tight smile. "We're family now." But we weren't. Not really. To Cecilia, family was blood, and I wasn't part of it. Adrian tried to reassure me. "She's like that with everyone at first," he said, kissing my forehead. "Give her time." I gave her time. And in return, she gave me silence, disapproval, and an ever-growing list of things I wasn't doing quite right.
If Cecilia is a storm, then Lysandra Whitmore is the quiet before it, Adrian's half-sister, 25 years old, raven-haired, pale-skinned, and heartbreakingly delicate. She's been in a wheelchair since a car accident at 12, or so they say. I don't know why, but I was drawn to her from the beginning. Maybe because she was the only person in the house who didn't judge me. Lysandra rarely speaks. Instead, she communicates with sketches, intricate, haunting drawings that seem to pour her soul onto paper. One afternoon, I found her alone in the sunroom, her pencil scratching furiously against a blank page. "That's beautiful," I said, peeking over her shoulder. She flinched slightly, but didn't pull away. It's a cage, I realized aloud. She nodded once, then wrote on the corner of the page, "Some birds stay even when the door is open." I didn't know then that she was talking about herself. Adrian is coming home later now. "Work's been insane," he says, loosening his tie as he steps into the foyer. "Big deals, long hours." I want to believe him, but I've seen the way his phone lights up at odd hours. Celine H. The name flashes across the screen one night as he showers. My chest tightens. I don't ask. Not yet. Because if I ask, he might answer, and I don't know if I'm ready for the truth. Saturday morning, as I pour Adrian his coffee, he clears his throat. "My family's planning a trip to Santorini next week." "Oh?" I force a smile. "That sounds lovely." He doesn't meet my eyes. "They thought it might be better if you stayed here, to keep Lysandra company." The smile falters. I see. "You're amazing, Isla," he says quickly. "Not everyone would understand." I nod. But inside, something fragile cracks. That afternoon, Lysandra waves me into her room. For the first time in months, her dark eyes are blazing, not sad, not empty. When the door closes, she speaks. "You need to listen to me carefully." I freeze. You can talk?" She smirks faintly. "Of course I can." And just like that, my world begins to unravel. The air in Lysandra's room feels heavier than the rest of the house. It smells faintly of turpentine and graphite, the scent of her charcoal sketches scattered across a long mahogany desk by the window. You can talk?" I stammer, my voice barely above a whisper. She leans back in her wheelchair, her lips curling into a faint smirk. "I never lost my voice," she says softly, her tone sharp yet calm. "That's just what they want everyone to believe." My knees weaken, and I steady myself against the doorframe. "I don't understand," I say. "Adrian told me, Cecilia said they lied." Lysandra gestures for me to sit, and for a moment I hesitate. Then I cross the room and sink into the chair opposite hers. "You have questions," she says, her voice smooth, controlled, "and I'll answer them. But first, I need you to promise me something." "What?" "Promise you'll listen to everything. No interruptions, no judgments. Just listen." I nod, slowly. Lysandra takes a deep breath, her delicate fingers tracing patterns on the armrest of her chair. "When I was 10, my father, Adrian's father, married Cecilia. She hated me from the moment she moved into this house. To her, I wasn't family. I was baggage. She told the neighbors I was a sickly child. She wanted them to pity her for taking care of me. It worked. People started treating me like porcelain, and when I had a high fever 2 years later, she didn't call a doctor. My stomach twists. What? I survived, barely, but when I recovered, she spread a story that the fever damaged my brain, that I'd lost my ability to speak and walk properly. That's monstrous." Lysandra gives a hollow laugh. "She wanted to control me, keep me out of the way. Adrian believed her too. Or maybe he didn't care enough to ask. But you've been pretending all this time?" I ask, my voice shaking. "Yes, because the weaker I seemed, the less they noticed me. And the less they noticed me, the more freedom I had to watch them." "Watch them?" Her eyes glint darkly. "Adrian, Cecilia, Celine Hawthorne. The three of them are not as separate as you think."
"What are you saying?" I whisper. "I'm saying Adrian isn't just unfaithful. He and Cecilia are planning something that involves you." My chest tightens. Planning what? Divorce. Quiet, clean, and in their favor. They want to cut you out of the Whitmore wealth entirely. Celine isn't just his mistress, she's their backup plan. Someone Cecilia approves of. Someone pliable. I feel my world spinning. No, I murmur. He wouldn't. He would, Lysandra says firmly, and he is. Tears sting my eyes, but I blink them back. How do you know? I've been listening, watching, recording. She wheels over to her desk, pulls out a small black device, and presses play. Adrian's voice fills the room. She's not Whitmore material, Mother. Once she's gone, we can make things right. Cecilia. Good. The prenup will protect the family's assets. Make sure she signs without a fight. Celine. And if she doesn't? Cecilia. Then we'll make her regret staying. I cover my mouth, stifling a gasp. I can't let them do this to you, Lysandra says quietly. You barely know me, I reply. Her expression softens. You're the only person who ever treated me like a human being, not a burden, not a mistake. You brought me tea. You complimented my sketches. You listened. She pauses. Now it's my turn to listen to you and to fight for you. I shake my head, overwhelmed. What can we do? They're so powerful. We use that power against them, Lysandra says simply.
Over the next 3 days, we plan. Lysandra shows me her stash of recordings, dozens of files stored on an encrypted flash drive. Every venomous word Cecilia spat about me, every time Adrian referred to me as temporary. And more damning still, photographs. Adrian and Celine together at a hotel in New York. Cecilia slipping Celine a manila envelope. We'll let them go to Santorini as planned, Lysandra says, her eyes gleaming. While they're busy toasting their success, we'll follow quietly. Follow them? To Santorini? Yes, and we'll confront them where they least expect it, publicly, with witnesses, and with proof. A cold determination settles in my chest. For the first time in months, I feel awake. The morning of their trip, Cecilia and Adrian load their suitcases into the black Mercedes waiting outside. You'll take good care of Lysandra, won't you? Cecilia says, her smile tight and condescending. Of course, Mrs. Whitmore, I reply, sweetly. Adrian doesn't even look at me as he kisses Cecilia on the cheek. When the car pulls away, silence fills the house. Lysandra and I exchange a glance. It's time, she says. We pack light, 2 suitcases, a backpack with the flash drive, and Lysandra's sketchbook. By the time Adrian's plane lands in Santorini, we're already on ours. The Santorini air was thick with salt and heat, and the whitewashed buildings gleamed under the fierce Mediterranean sun. I stood beside Lysandra on the stone steps outside the airport, clutching my small suitcase. She had traded her usual muted tones for a flowy white dress and oversized sunglasses, looking like any other confident tourist. No trace of the fragile, silent girl her family believed her to be. Are you sure about this? I asked, my voice barely audible above the rumble of a passing taxi. She didn't hesitate. They took everything from me, my voice, my life. It's time they lose something too. We checked into a boutique hotel just across from the resort where Adrian and Cecilia were staying. Lysandra pulled out her tablet and showed me a digital itinerary she had hacked from Adrian's email. Dinner reservations, spa appointments, a sunset cruise, all perfectly planned. She was spot on. They're creatures of habit. Tonight,
7 p.m., they're dining at Thalassa, the resort's poolside restaurant. And guess who's joining them? Celine, I murmured. Lysandra nodded. It's the perfect setup. We'll arrive just after the appetizers. My stomach churned. What if they see us coming and leave? They won't, she said with a cold smile. I've made sure of it. At 6:50 p.m., we stood behind a row of palm trees near the restaurant, hidden in the shadows. From our vantage point, I could see Adrian, Cecilia, and Celine seated at a table draped in linen, candles flickering in the warm breeze. Adrian was laughing at something Celine had said, his hand resting casually over hers. The sight sent a cold rush through my veins. Cecilia raised her wine glass, her voice carrying just enough for us to catch fragments. 2 new beginnings, she said. Celine clinked glasses with her. And 2 clean breaks. I clenched my fists. Ready? Lysandra whispered. I swallowed hard. Ready. We stepped out from behind the trees, the click of my heels echoing across the wooden deck. Adrian looked up first. His smile faltered. His hand dropped from Celine's. Isla, he said, his voice tight with shock. What are you doing here? The restaurant fell silent. Nearby diners turned to watch. Cecilia froze, her glass still midair. How dare you barge in here? I kept walking until I stood at the edge of their table. Lysandra glided up beside me, pushing her sunglasses up into her hair. The collective gasp when she stood was almost comical. Lysandra? Celine stammered. You're walking? I've been walking for years, Lysandra said smoothly. Funny how no one noticed. I pulled out my phone, opened the voice recorder app, and pressed play. Cecilia's voice crackled to life. She's not Whitmore material. Make sure she signs the papers quietly. Then Adrian's. Once she's gone, Celine can take her place. Gasps rippled through the restaurant. Adrian shot to his feet, his face pale. Turn that off! But I didn't. I met his eyes, my voice steady. This is who you are, Adrian. This is the man I married. You don't understand, Cecilia snapped. This isn't what it sounds like. No, Lysandra said coldly, because it sounds like you've been plotting to destroy Isla's life while grooming your son's mistress to replace her. Celine tried to stand, her chair screeching against the floor. I had nothing to do with this. Sit down, I said sharply, my voice cutting through the night. Celine froze. Adrian reached for me, his tone desperate. Isla, let's go somewhere private. We can talk about this. I stepped back, out of his reach. We're far past talking, Adrian. The restaurant manager approached nervously. Is there a problem here? No problem, I said smoothly. Just a family clearing the air. I turned back to Adrian. I'll be filing for divorce when I get home, and rest assured, I'll make sure every word of this reaches the right ears. Your colleagues, your investors. Adrian's mask cracked. His voice rose, panicked. You're trying to ruin me. You did that yourself, I replied. When I turned to leave, Lysandra fell into step beside me. We didn't speak until we reached the street. The Mediterranean breeze felt cool against my flushed cheeks. You were brilliant, Lysandra said quietly. So were you. As we walked back to our hotel, I felt the weight I'd been carrying for years begin to lift. The plane touched down at Logan Airport under a steel-gray Boston sky. As the wheels screeched against the runway, I stared out the window, my reflection faint on the glass. For the first time in years, I didn't see the version of myself Adrian had molded,
the quiet, agreeable wife. I saw someone else, someone stronger. Lysandra reached across the aisle and squeezed my hand. "You ready?" she asked softly. I nodded, more than ever. The next morning, I met Vivian Cross, the lawyer Lysandra had recommended. Vivian's office overlooked Boston Common, its walls lined with books and framed degrees. She was elegant, mid-40s, with sharp eyes that seemed to read more than words. "Walk me through everything," she said, folding her hands on the desk. I told her everything: Adrian's coldness, the Santorini confrontation, the voice recordings, and Celine's presence in our marriage. When I finished, Vivian leaned back in her chair. "You've got a strong case," she said. "Infidelity, emotional neglect, in an attempt to coerce you into signing away your rights. We'll file for divorce immediately." "What about Cecilia?" I asked. "We'll keep her in the crosshairs too," Vivian said with a faint smile. "But Adrian is the key." 2 weeks later, Adrian was served the divorce papers at his office. The Whitmore name still carried weight in Boston's real estate circles, but the rumors were spreading fast. Adrian Whitmore leaves wife for mistress. Whitmore empire faces scandal after audio leak. I didn't need to leak the recordings myself. Someone else had already done it, and I had a feeling Lysandra knew more about that than she admitted. Adrian called me 6 times that night. I didn't answer. When Adrian and I finally faced each other across a long oak table in Vivian's conference room, he looked nothing like the man I'd married. His hair was unkempt, his tailored suit rumpled, and his once steady hands fidgeted with his watch. "You didn't have to do this, Isla," he said, his voice low and strained. "You didn't have to betray me," I shot back. Vivian slid a folder across the table. "Here's the proposed settlement. You'll divide the marital assets 50-50, provide spousal support, and cede any claim to Isla's personal savings." Adrian's lawyer, a thin, pale man, cleared his throat. "This is aggressive." "No," Vivian said coolly. "It's fair. Considering the evidence, we're being generous." Adrian's jaw tightened. "I gave you everything, Isla." "You gave me nothing that wasn't meant to control me," I said, "and now I'm taking it back." As my case gained momentum, Lysandra prepared to confront Cecilia. One afternoon, we visited the Whitmore mansion for the last time. The air inside felt different, stale, almost hollow. Cecilia stood in the foyer, her posture rigid. "So," she said, her voice cold, "you've both come to gloat?" "No," Lysandra said. "I came to return this." She handed Cecilia a small box. Inside was the necklace Cecilia had given her years ago, a gilded birdcage pendant. "You kept me caged for too long," Lysandra said, her voice steady. "But I'm free now." Cecilia's face remained expressionless, but her knuckles whitened around the box. "You're both fools. You'll regret crossing this family." "No," I said quietly. "The only thing I regret is not leaving sooner." 3 months later, the court ruled in my favor. Adrian was ordered to pay spousal support for 5 years and split the assets down the middle. Celine Hawthorne disappeared from the tabloids after her company dropped her as a brand ambassador. As for Cecilia, her social calendar dried up faster than wine spilled on silk. I moved out of the small apartment Adrian and I had shared and into a loft overlooking the harbor. The sunlight streamed through floor-to-ceiling windows, bathing the room in golden light. It felt like freedom. I started my own consulting firm, working with clients I respected and projects I believed in. For the first time in years, I woke up excited for the day ahead. Lysandra, too, found her wings. She moved to Florence to study art and opened her first solo exhibition within 6 months. "You were the first person who believed in me, Isla," she said before leaving. Now I can finally believe in myself. On a quiet Sunday morning, the doorbell rang. I opened it to find Adrian and Cecilia standing there. Both looked diminished. Adrian's shoulders slumped. Cecilia's designer coat hung loosely on her frame. "Isla," Adrian began, "we need your help." I didn't move. "We've lost everything," he continued. "The company, the house. Please." I tilted my head slightly. "Funny," I said softly. "I once begged you for kindness. Now it's your turn." Cecilia's eyes glistened. "You can't be this cruel." "I'm not cruel," I replied. "I've just learned how to protect myself." And I closed the door. As I stood by the window, watching the harbor glisten under the morning sun, I felt no bitterness, only peace. Not all endings are perfect, but some are necessary, and this was my beginning.
3 months had passed since Adrian and Cecilia showed up on my doorstep, gaunt and desperate. Since then, the phone had been silent. No calls, no texts, no Whitmore-branded envelope slid beneath my door. I had expected a sense of triumph, a flash of gloating satisfaction when I finally shut the door on them. But instead, all I felt was relief, like shedding a skin I had long outgrown. Each morning in my new loft began the same way, with sunlight streaming in through floor-to-ceiling windows, a cup of strong coffee in hand, and the sound of seagulls outside. The old Isla, the one who had tiptoed around Cecilia's sharp tongue and Adrian's cold silences, was gone. The new Isla was building something of her own. My consulting firm had taken off faster than I imagined. Instead of working for one company, I now chose which projects to accept, which clients to work with. I set my own hours. I set my own rules. And for the first time in years, I felt free. A cream-colored envelope sat in my mailbox one afternoon, the handwriting instantly familiar. It was from Lysandra. Inside was a postcard of Florence, the Ponte Vecchio at sunset, and a short note. "Dear Isla, I've been accepted into the Accademia di Belle Arti for their advanced illustration program. My first gallery showing opens next month. None of this would have been possible without you. You believed in me when no one else did. You helped me find my voice again, not the one they silenced, but the one I chose for myself. When you visit, I'll take you to the little cafe by the Arno where I sketched for hours while planning our Santorini coup. I think you'd love it. With love, Lysandra." I smiled as I tucked the card onto my fridge door, next to a photo of the two of us on that fateful flight to Greece. 2 women in sunglasses, grinning like they had already won a battle no one else knew was coming. It was a rainy Sunday when I saw Adrian again. I was browsing a flower stall near Boston Common, fingers brushing over soft white peonies, when I caught sight of him across the street. He was standing alone in the drizzle, hair damp, suit wrinkled, a man out of place in a world that had moved on without him. For a moment our eyes met. He took a step forward. I didn't. Instead, I turned back to the peonies, handed a few bills to the vendor, and walked away. Some ghosts are better left unacknowledged. That evening, I placed the peonies in a tall glass vase on my kitchen table and stepped out onto the balcony. The harbor stretched out before me, dotted with tiny lights from late-night boats. The air was cool, carrying a faint tang of salt. I wrapped a knitted shawl around my shoulders, the one Lysandra had given me before leaving for Florence, and exhaled deeply. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was calm. My phone buzzed. It was a message from Vivian Cross, my lawyer.
Final payment from Whitmore settlement processed. Account updated. Congratulations again, Isla. I stared at the screen for a long moment, then locked it and set it aside. It wasn't the money that mattered. It was the fact that I no longer needed their approval, their validation, or their chains. On my nightstand sat the small gold birdcage necklace Cecilia had once given Lysandra. She'd left it with me the day she boarded her flight to Italy. "It's not a cage anymore," she said. "It's a reminder of what we escaped." I picked it up now, running my thumb over the delicate bars. "You were right," I murmured. Then I set it back down and smiled. Life doesn't end when someone walks away from you. It begins when you finally walk toward yourself. I didn't know what the future would bring, whether I'd fall in love again, whether I'd open that art gallery I once dreamed of, whether I'd visit Florence next spring like Lysandra kept begging me to. But I knew this much: I would never lose myself again. At a charity event 6 months later, I overheard whispers about Cecilia Whitmore. "Did you hear?" one woman murmured behind a champagne flute. "She sold the estate, moved to a condo downtown." "Adrian, too," another replied. "They say he's working for someone else now, not leading, reporting." I didn't turn around. I didn't need to. The glass house they'd built had finally shattered, and I was nowhere near the wreckage. I walked out onto the terrace, the night air wrapping around me like a promise. I had become my own home now, and this time, no one could take it from me. Sometimes strength isn't holding on, it's knowing when to let go.